Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and today I'm bringing you my top 10 deck building board games. Now this is a Patreon selected video, so if you'd like to vote on future videos like this one, please subscribe to our Patreon in the link in the description below and vote on the next one. So thank you so much for all my Patreons. Just wanted to make sure that I mention you here. But with that being said, let's talk about the top 10 deck building board games. If you're not familiar with deck building games, these are games where generally you start with a deck of cards and then you're going to be adding cards to it throughout the game. And then whenever you run out of cards in this deck, you're going to take your discard pile, usually shuffle it up and have a new deck. So this is a great way that you get some customization with your gameplay, and you do this by playing these usually fun cards. Now, a lot of these games may have exceptions to this rule, but this is just kind of the basics in case you're unfamiliar. Now, that being said, I do want to talk about one quick honorable mention before we start this list, and that's going to be Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Now, Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle offers a very cool thematic system, but in a very basic deck building style. This is not my favorite deck building game by far, but the thematics in this, I really want to make sure that I mention it here. So in this game, you play as a Harry Potter character, and you're actually going to be going through all of the years of the books, and each book is going to have thematic content that's appropriate. So I really like this system, and I just think it's a great thematic choice here, so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it on this list. So that is Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Now with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the list with number 10. For my number 10, I picked Paperback. Now, Paperback has you playing as authors of books, and you're going to be using letters to create large words. You're using those words to get purchase power in order to buy either new letters for your deck, which may have special abilities, or to buy points cards. Now, my favorite part about this game actually comes from those points cards and the wilds that you start with at the start of each game. Each deck has a bunch of these wild symbols that you can use for any letter, which is awesome for building words. However, they are worth no purchase power, which means that if you take more solid letters, it's going to get you a little bit restricted, but you're going to have a bit more purchase power to be able to get more points. There's a cool dynamic here, and each of those wild cards is also worth points, so you have a lot of interesting choices when it comes to that. My favorite way to play this game is the cooperative mode. I love how everybody is able to talk about what they have and do their best to help each other on everybody's turns, and I think this plays really well with low player counts because everybody gets to play a little bit more, and it helps with kind of the downtime that deck building games can incur. The other really cool thing about this game is the fact that you can purchase specific letters with specific words in mind, so that way if they do show up, you may have a plan or a strategy that you can use to employ to make sure that those letters get played. It's a great system, a great deck building game. That's my number 10, Paperback. Now my number 9 is going to go to the game Friday. In Friday you play as the titular Friday, helping Robinson Crusoe trying to escape this cursed island he's found himself on. Now Robinson Crusoe's not the brightest lad, so he's going to be going challenge after challenge, either succeeding and taking this challenge card into his deck as a new card, or failing. But have no fear, when you fail, the life points that you lose, you're actually going to be using to cull cards in your deck, get rid of them. This is a standard deck building practice where you're going to get a better deck and you're going to see better cards more often. And this is definitely needed in this game because you start off with some real bad cards, lots of zeros, lots of negative ones, but you have to do this with some thought in mind because every time you run out of cards in your deck, you're going to have to add an aging card into your deck, and these are the worst cards that take even more life to get rid of. I really like this system, and my favorite part of this game is that choice of, ooh, do I really want to make sure that I complete this challenge so I can add this card to my deck, or do I take that hit, lose some life, and cull my deck and make it better for future challenge? I love this decision, and I like all the little powers and combos. This is a fantastic solo deck builder. That's Friday, my number 9. My number 8 is going to go to the game Clank in Space, a deck building adventure. This has you playing as a bunch of space thieves, and it's your job to jump into Lord Erraticus's ship, steal a bunch of data so that you can get one of his artifacts, and then escape on an escape pod. Now, this does some really interesting things with the deck building mechanic where you're playing on a board. You're going to be using your cards to move around and then get these data pads by visiting different areas of the ship and then eventually snatching an artifact. Now, this game does it in a specific way where each card is going to provide symbols. And these symbols include things like these movement boots, these attack powers, that you could defeat these villains that might show up. But my favorite part about this game are the cards themselves. I love that each card has all of this iconography that makes sense. I love that some cards have abilities that activate when you buy them, some have abilities that when they're pulled and put onto the board, some have passive abilities, and a lot of cards are going to have combo abilities. There's a lot of potential for a lot of fun. And the coolest thing about this Clank system as a whole is the fact that you are going to be able to actually do some risk mitigation through the clank system. There's a lot of cards that are very strong but provide clank, and anytime one of these cards with this symbol shows up, it's going to cause the Lord Eradicus to attack. And if you're going to put all the clank that's been collected into this bag, you're going to pull out clank and it'll deal damage, and you have to hope that you hopefully mitigated and got rid of some of your clank so that you don't have to worry about the incoming attack. It's a really great system, and I prefer this one over the original clank because you get a little bit more time to build your deck. You actually have this meaningful engine building and things you're going to be creating, and everybody's going to get a chance to actually explore the map and have fun with the deck they're creating. So I like that this fixed a bit of problems of the original for me, and it's one that I really enjoy. That is Clank in Space, my number 8. My number 7 is going to go to the cooperative game Aeon's End. In this game, you play as breach mages, and it's your job to channel this energy from another world in order to defeat all of these large nemesis minions and save Gravehold before it falls. Now, this has a very awesome twist on the deck building mechanism. Now, normally when you run out of cards in a deck here, you're going to be shuffling your discard pile and adding it to a deck, but the way this works is you simply take your discard pile, turn it upside down, and put it on the bottom of your deck. That's your new draw pile. So whenever you play cards, you can potentially stack different things, discard things in specific ways. You can also hold cards in your hand so you don't have to play them all or discard them all at all. I really like this system, and I love this idea of really thoughtful planning and deck building. So this is a really sweet system. My favorite part about this game, though, has to be the different breach mages and the different nemesis monsters. So as you play, you're going to pick one breach mage, and these breach mages have all of these spells. They also have their own special abilities and powers, and they're going to be able to do all sorts of fun things. And inversely, you have the nemesis creatures, and these nemesis creatures are going to have some crazy amount of powers, their own personalized cards. Some come with special boards. Oh, it's just so fascinating, so fun to see the creativity that's put into each and every one of these. This is a fantastic system, fantastic game, and one of the best cooperative deck builders out there. So that is Aeon's End, my number 7. My number 6 is going to go to the game Imperium, Classics and Legends. These are a pair of standalone games that basically function the same, one with a more historical theme and one with a more fantastical theme, but you're going to be doing a deck building system that has a huge emphasis on culling as well as kind of semi-culling. This is a game where you're going to be developing as a civilization. It's your job to take your civilization and do your best to run through your deck as fast as possible. Every time you run through your deck, you're going to be developing your civilization, and then once you go through it the whole time, once your civilization kind of upgrade stack, you're going to be able to start developing. You can spend resources to kind of pick and choose cards that you want to add to your deck, and that way you get some choice in the way that you're building your engine. There's a lot of cool choices here with the cards that you're taking, but my favorite part about this game is actually this selection row. As you play, there are going to be these cards that are out on the board, and each faction has kind of a priority of cards that they're trying to add to the deck. Maybe there are some cards that work with specific factions, so on your turn, you're going to be taking actions to be adding these cards into your deck. Now, when you do that, you're also going to be potentially adding Unrest, which are basically negative cards in your deck. And when those cards show up, they're just dead cards in your hand. So you're going to do your best to not only add a bunch of ways to score points, but you're also going to try to cull cards that are going to be negatives. I think the system is really solid. This makes for a fantastic two-player game and solo game. I really love the art. This is one of my favorite pieces in recent memory. I love that the Miko is really getting a chance to shine here with his customization of his artwork for all of these different races of people. This is just fantastic in general. I love the asymmetry in the factions. I love the way it works, and this is a great system. The solo mode is also extremely awesome. This is just a great game with lots of things to explore, and give this one a try if you haven't. Fantastic game. Imperium Legends and Imperium Classics, my number 6. My number 5 is going to go to the game Great Western Trail. Now, Great Western Trail has you playing as ranch hands. It's your job to wrangle up some cattle, bring them down to Kansas City, and then ship them off. Now, you're going to be doing this using a deck building system. On your turn, you're going to be moving to a location. You'll be using the cards in your hand to potentially take actions, like this one here. You discard a green 2 to get some money, and then you'll perform the action of the building, whatever else is there. Now, as you play, you may visit the cow market here that allows you to add different types of cows, but ultimately, you are trying to discard and draw new cards so that by the time you get to Kansas City, you're going to have a hand of cards that is a bunch of different cows with different values. The more variety that you have in your hand, the better your sell will be. You want all different colors, and then you get that much money and potentially get some ways to earn points. Now, there's a lot of fun stuff in this game, but my favorite part about this game has to be the buildings themselves and the upgrades. So the way the game works is on the board, you'll have all of these neutral tiles, and there'll be these empty spaces. So as you play, you're going to be using carpenters to put buildings out, and these are personal action spots for you. I really like that idea because it's a lot of customization. You're also going to have your own individual player board that you can upgrade, and I just think that's a lot of fun being able to run around and really make the most out of this trail. It's a great time, great customization, great card play, and a great system, and if you really like this one, they just put out a new edition with a solo mode that you can play all the time, but I really like the Railways to the North expansion, which right now currently is only available for the original edition, but I believe they're making plans for it in this new edition too. So wonderful game, excellent time. I love the character customization and the engine building. This is a great game. Great Western Trail, my number 5. My number 4 goes to the game Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, this is a game where you play as a bunch of explorers. You're going to be out in the jungle doing your best to uncover temples, write research journals, as well as add new powerful artifacts and tools to help you along the way. This game has a really cool system where it's a combination of multiple game mechanics. It's worker placement mixed with deck building. The cards themselves will have these icons on their corners, and that determines where you can go on the map. So this map is huge and sprawling, has lots of different spaces to go, but you're limited with the amount of workers you have. You only have 2. This game's strength is in its small, tiny actions. On your turn, you do a single thing. You can either visit a space by discarding a card, you can play a card for its effect, or you can move up one of these research tracks, or potentially buy a new card from the deck. It's got a lot of nice little knobs and turns. Now, my favorite part about this game actually comes from the deck building itself. There are 2 different types of cards that you can play with. The first card here is an item card. These are cards that are more simple to get. You're going to be spending your coins on them. When you buy an item card, it actually goes on the bottom of your deck. So right away, you're going to get a chance to use that more frequently. But to go even more on the extreme side, you also have these special item cards, these magic items. And when you play them, as soon as you buy them for their compass cost here, which is a bit more, it's a more important resource, once you pay that compass cost, you're going to not only get that card in your deck, but you activate it right away. So you play that card in front of you, it's going to get activated, and you get to use the effect. The other cool thing is when the round is over, you're going to shuffle all the cards you played because there's no discard pile, put them at the bottom of your deck, and then continue drawing. So it's a really cool system. I love the way it works here, and I love that every card has lots of different uses. You can use it for its action effect, you can use it to travel on the board, and the board, just kind of like in Great Western Trail, is going to evolve. You have these spaces that are going to appear on the board, and you can discover them by spending some compasses. I really like this system. I love the small little actions that you can make, and it's just a very nice, comforting game that has a lot of familiar mechanics that just blend really well here. The artwork is fantastic. It's just a wonderful time. That's my number 4, Lost Ruins of Arnak. My number 3 goes to the game Marvel Legendary. Now, Legendary is a very straightforward system here. You're going to be playing as Marvel superheroes, though. And in this game, you're going to be taking your hand of starting heroes and recruiting more. You have stars to purchase cards, you have strikes to attack characters in the city, and it's your goal to use those new heroes that you've acquired to generate strikes to defeat all the villains, not only in the city, but also the mastermind that's trying to do some terrible scheme to the city. Each mastermind is going to come with their own set of villains, as well as their own ability and ways that they attack you, and this makes for a really fun cooperative experience. Now, my favorite part about this game has to be the potential combo building and characters that you can combine and mishmash in the game. There's lots of fun keywords that you can pick, there's lots of different archetypes that you can make based on the colors or the team symbols, or just the way their mechanics mesh. There are so many different characters to pick from, and really any type of Marvel flavor that you can think of. Currently, we're on the Annihilation set, which has just announced and released a bunch of Fantastic Four characters, and those have all been a lot of fun to play with. But if you're looking for a great expansion to jump into right away, my favorites have to be the Dark City expansion. It introduces just a lot of really awesome cards and different characters, a lot of street-level heroes, but also the World War Hulk expansion also includes these awesome transform cards where you can actually replace your cards with others. It's a wonderful mechanic. So I really love just the amount of variety here here. This is a game that continuously gets played because of all of the different choices and things that come out. I love that whenever a new Marvel movie comes out, you can bring this one out and just have a great time with it. This is one that my wife really loves. This is just a hit overall. That's Marvel Legendary, my number 3. My number 2 is going to go to the game Dune Imperium. Now, this game has really grown on me in the last year, and for good reason. In Dune Imperium, you play as one of the great houses, trying to vie for power on Arrakis. This planet has all the spice you can imagine, so you want to be winning these large conflicts in order to generate influence points and hopefully win the game. Now, you're going to be doing this through a very similar mechanic that we saw in Lost Ruins of Arnak. You're going to be doing deck building worker placement. Each of these cards has a symbol on their side that tells you where you can use them to put the agents out. But the cards themselves are so fascinating. They have this gray section that will activate if you use them to activate a space on the board, or if you pass at the end of your turn, you get to use the blue part on the bottom here. So every card has 3 uses. A use for where to play it, a use for if you keep it in your hand, and then potentially uses for comboing with other cards. There's lots of things to do here. My favorite part about this game, though, has to be the combat system. I think it's so awesome and it makes so much sense. Whenever you visit a space on the board that has these little sword symbols, you're going to be able to put some of your combat cubes into the fight. You also have a garrison area where you can send additional troops, but ultimately you are trying to get the highest strength in order to receive whatever reward is on this combat card here. Now, as the game plays, you're going to see that some of these combat rewards are extremely insanely powerful and some are not as powerful, but all are worth winning. So I love this decision of knowing when to put your troops out and knowing which combats are going to be really important for you. It feels really awesome when you're able to score some type of combat victory with a low amount of troops, and it also feels equally as good to get a surprise victory, maybe using the cards in your hand or some intrigue cards to get additional strength. I think this is a great system and really promotes extremely fun and intense gameplay. Now, another cool thing that I really like about this game is the asymmetry. Each character is going to have a special power, and their special power are also tied to the cards that you're going to be adding. I really like how you have the signet ring ability, so there's a card that triggers differently based on each player, and I also like that the cards are going to work differently based on the players you're using. Maybe you have a character that works really well with money or spice, you might want to pick up cards for that. I also really like how tight and intense the deck building is in here. You really want to be spending your time buying powerful cards because you're going to be seeing them more often. In many deck builders, you may just buy cards to buy cards, but here you may be looking for specific combos. Cards that let you go to different spots of the board. Cards that you want to make sure stay in your hand. So getting one strong card early on might be a card that you continuously see because your deck building is so focused. I love this system, I love the way it works, and it's one that I just want to keep on playing. So that's my number 2, Dune Imperium. Now my number 1 has to go to Heroes of Tenefyr. In Heroes of Tenefyr, you play as a bunch of adventurers. You're going to be going through dungeon after dungeon, leveling up your deck, and doing your best to prepare for a final boss fight. Now the way this is done is extremely fun and clever. When you enter a dungeon, you'll be each taking a turn fighting a type of monster. The strength of the monster depends on the number of characters playing. Now you're going to be drawing 3 cards from the top of your deck, and you decide right then and there, do you want to use those cards to help fight the creature, or do you want to discard them and draw 3 new ones? This is such a simple system of not only push your luck, but also a form of stamina, because that deck has to last you through the entire dungeon. Once you run out of deck, you're done. You don't get to help out with any more of the creatures, which is really cool. I love that everybody is very invested in your turn. They're trying to puzzle out and think what could happen, what couldn't happen, and I like how this is very much up to you and your choice. I really like this system, and this is just the core of the game. Another cool thing is when you actually defeat the monster is going to turn over and go into your deck, just like in Friday. So whenever you defeat these, you are really encouraged to make sure that you're able to get those kills and kill as many as possible so you can add them to your deck and make your decks better. Now, all of these things make for amazing game concepts, but my favorite part about this game as a whole just has to be the combo potential and just how fun the game plays. So a lot of the effects in the game are going to have you be able to search your deck for cards, combo cards, repeat effects of cards, draw cards. There's so much to do with this system, and it's done so well here. There's lots of interesting characters that use things like Technomage tokens, that use a beast summon, and all of these cards are really specific to the characters that they employ. The cleric feels like a cleric. The barbarian feels like a barbarian. Your hunter with the extra wolf. It is so cool how you... Oh man, I just gotta gush on this a little bit. The hunter itself has this awesome little deck of wolf cards that they get to use, and they're kind of deck building on 2 different levels. This is so awesome. I love this system, and I love how satisfying it is to work together, defeat creatures, use those creatures as your own cards, and then wombo combo, play lots of cards after cards, and getting lots of awesome effects. The push your luck is done so well, the progression of the game makes a lot of sense, and the boss that you're going to be fighting at the end is so varied from one another that you're going to have lots of reasons to continue to pull this one out and play again and again. In addition to the bosses changing, the characters you pick determine the number of creatures that are going to be coming out and the types of creatures, so you're going to have a lot of variety with the different cards that you're taking on. This is such a fantastic experience, a great cooperative game, and one that I see myself playing for a long, long time. Heroes of Tenefyr continues to impress me with its approachability. It's extremely fun and strategic, as well as tactical gameplay. Great experience. That's Heroes of Tenefyr, my number 1. And that's the list. Those are my top 10 deck building board games, the games that I love to pull out when I'm getting that itch to construct something as I play and to improve my power and efficiency throughout the gameplay. What are your favorite deck building games? Did I miss anything on this list? Do you agree with any of my choices? Are there any of these you'd like to try? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you again, patrons, for selecting this topic. It was great to talk about, and I can't wait for more. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.